David Axelrod is the former senior advisor to President Obama and current political analyst for CNN. Axelrod is headlining a local series on democracy at work and joined us earlier today to offer his perspective on the state of politics in America. David Axelrod, good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You bet. I got a lot of questions for you, and a lot of big questions.
All right.
None bigger than this. I mean, considering everything going on right now, the landscape, the political landscape especially, do you see democracy in America in peril?
Well, Ted, I think democracy all over the world is being challenged. And, we should remind ourselves that democracy was never a gift. Democracy was a project. And we were warned right from the beginning by the founders of this country that it would require constant vigilance to make democracy work. And now our democracy is being tested and our institutions are being tested. And ultimately, it'll be up to the American people to insist that this experiment goes forward.
And again, you look back at World War II, the greatest generation, World
Yes.
War I, all these things where the country got together, even to beat the Depression, the country got together to get things done. Are we still capable of doing that in this country?
Well, it's a really good question. And, the greatest generation profited, and we as a country profited from the fact that regardless of where they came from or what their political views were, they fought side by side to protect freedom and save the world from fascism. And I think that cooperation flowed into our politics as well. Look, I think the problem we have today is that we have become a social media society. We have algorithms that tell social media platforms the thing that will keep us online, and their great insight is the thing that keeps us online is anger, is outrage, is aggrievement, are conspiracy theories. And they don't care whether you're right or left, or they just find that and they shove us into these silos in which our views are always affirmed but not always informed. And everybody outside the silo is menacing, is alien, is an enemy, and it destroys the social fabric and it's destroying our politics.
Is there any way to get out of those silos?
Well, I think that requires some awareness and effort on the part of people, first of all. And, I think we have to be aware of what's happening to us, that we are essentially being programmed by our social media sites, by our choices in cable TV, to go to the places where our prejudices are entertained in politics. And it's very, very dangerous. I mean, can we overcome it? I think we can. I have to believe we can. But do I know the path exactly? No. And am I certain? No.
I ask the questions because we can't even agree on a pandemic. We have a health pandemic, a worldwide health pandemic, and we can't even agree on how to fight that. We can't agree on whether or not Vladimir Putin is doing the right or wrong thing in Russia and whether or not we should. I mean, those things, those were basic things that should have been relatively clear.
Should have been.
They're not.
Yeah.
Can they become more clear?
Well, again, I think the answer is, can they? Yes. Will they? We'll see. I think most of the country understands that Vladimir Putin is a tyrant, understands that Alexei Navalny was a hero, and that what happened to him was an unbelievable outrage, and that the Putin's invasion of Ukraine was not genius, as President Trump suggested, but was villainy. I think most of the country understands that. But there are these cleavages that, again, social media and politicians who mimic it have found. People after 20 years of war were tired of sending all this money overseas for what they consider military adventures, and it's clouded people's feelings about supporting Ukraine when we have all these needs here, and it's fodder for demagogues to exploit.
Yeah, speaking of Navalny, apparently he read your book
Yeah.
and he enjoyed your book.
I was so moved when I learned that. I had no idea. And this Kerry Kennedy, one of the Kennedy family, released a letter this past weekend, in which he noted that he had read my book, and the Kennedys were inspirations to me, and he recalled some of that, the passages in that book. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to say other than that I'm overwhelmed by the idea that a man that great would have taken time to read my book.
As far as politics are concerned, handicap what's going to happen in November. What do you see this far out?
Well, I think you're going to have a race between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I think that's pretty clear right now, unless there are some unpredictable events. But they would have to be events outside of politics that would take one of them or both of them off the playing field. But they are well on their way to being the nominees of their party. So we're going to have a rematch, and I think it's going to be very close. I don't think it can be anything but that, because we're so polarized as a country. How it turns out, stay tuned. I don't have a prediction on that.
So nothing parachutes in, no convention fights, no last minute turnarounds?
I think that's fantasy. I think even if Trump is convicted, I'm not sure that the convention in Milwaukee will turn away from him. And there are party rules that bind delegates. So, it's very, very clear Donald Trump is in control of the Republican Party. And as for the Democrats, I've said from the beginning that if Joe Biden wants to be the nominee, he will be the nominee. There's loyalty to him. And at this point, I think people are more focused on the task of defeating Trump than they are of unseating Biden. I don't think that's the major discussion within the Democratic Party.
Last question before you go. Congress, will there be a change in leadership either way, either house?
Well, I think the Republicans in Congress, in the House, are doing their best to see to it that there will be a change, because they're so inept. But I also think that redistricting in New York and a few other places favors Democrats. And what I would predict is that Democrats will take the House. And I think that Democrats are going to have a hard time holding on to the Senate, because they have more seats at play than Republicans. And 3 of them are in states that Donald Trump carried in 2020. And it's very, very hard to overcome that. So they may. The 2 remaining, Senator Manchin has left. Senator Tester in Montana and Sherrod Brown in Ohio are masterful politicians, great public officials. If anybody can resist the tide, they can, but it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, stay tuned indeed. David Axelrod, good to have you here.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.